Welcome back to another build and another frog species I picked up a couple months ago and I'm going to debut today. For this build, I'm going to be using another 18 by 18 by 30 ReptiZoo. Really like these things. The only drawback, I think, besides the screen top is how shallow the base is. It's only about 3 inches deep, so really not a lot of room for substrate here. Now on the back, you can see I used some XPS foam. That's just because I knew I was going to build up the back, some height to it, and there was really no reason to waste foam back there. This stuff is not as cheap as the XPS is. So now once I had my drainage layer in place, it was on with the fabric in between the substrate area and the drainage layer. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but I thought I would try something different later on, which you'll see, so I really did not need the substrate barrier at all here. And for this build, I'm going to also be using some cork bark tube I've had laying around for quite a while. I did set this up earlier just to see how the pieces would fit, and of course, first time around I put it upside down, but no harm. So there is kind of a gap here up front, so I use some foam just to fill the gap in, and later I'll put some silicone over it. Now before I went any further, I wanted to go ahead and attach the cork tubes to the background, so just a few dabs of silicone here and there, and then covered up the shavings I got from the last time I carved out the background. Now, as you can see here, there is quite the hole behind this cork bark tube. And again, the easiest way to cover it up, besides trying to fill it with substrate or anything like that, is just to shove some foam behind there and silicone over it. It's like I probably could have cut the hole a little bigger in the tip there. That are probably partially blocked just because I used it so sparingly in the beginning. Once I had a decent amount down, I went and grabbed the trusty popsicle stick and spread it out, and then again covered it up with more cork bark shaving. Now, luckily, I did use the camera to peek around the corner, and I noticed that I had not even come close to covering up that hole. So just a few more pieces of sponge filter, some more silicone. Thankfully, this crack and bond is really cheap, especially compared to a lot of the other brands. I really don't have a problem with using as much as I need to. Now, this is probably a perfect example of taking your time on your builds. You don't want to miss something like this and then have your animal inside your enclosure and then one day it just disappears and ends up dying inside one of the cork bark tubes or whatever else you have in your background. Now, once I had all the holes covered up, I went around with some more 1-inch pieces just to build the background out in a few places so I could carve them out later on and add some nice detail to the background. Now this piece I'm putting on right now, you see I'm wiggling it a bit. It's actually, I think it helps it stick better. It removes all the air gaps. It fills in all the little cracks so you get a much better seal, much better grab. So once I had all my pieces set on the background that I thought I was going to need, I went ahead and let everything cure overnight. And now that the background is ready to carve out, I get to test out my new improved version of the carving wheel I designed. The last one had quite a bit of slippage because I was using the bolt as the shank for the drill. This time I used a T-slot nut with a 2mm bolt through it, and then I threaded on a brass standoff. So this one holds much better. Obviously, there's no slipping. The bolt doesn't slip inside the wheel, and it's time to test it out. And as it turns out, this one actually did work a little bit better. There wasn't as much jumping. I added more teeth to it, made them a little smaller. That way you get a better, more precise cut into everything, and so far so good. Now the only thing I did notice with making more teeth and making them smaller is the pieces were a little bit smaller and there was a little bit more dust. Just nothing close to what it was when we used the wire brush on the end of the drill. And since I had enough pieces already from the last background I did, I thought I'd just toss them in the back for some fill in. Once I was done carving the background, I went around with the silicone and the shavings and tied everything in. And once I was done with all that, I let everything sit out for a week and rinsed it every other day or so, just to make sure I got all the loose bits off and to make sure everything was cured. So once I was ready to start planting, I thought I would go a different direction this time. This kind of topic comes up quite a bit, especially on Facebook posts. I see people talking about they don't use substrate. And I have noticed quite a few content creators on YouTube that also don't use substrate and haven't for quite some time. So I thought, why not give it a shot? So with this, I'm not using any substrate and I will be planting everything directly into the foam. Now, if you think about it, this technically is not a new concept. Hydroponics has been around for a long time. I know this isn't exactly like hydroponics, but it's the same basic principle. You know, as long as the plants get nutrients to the roots, which the frogs and microfauna will provide, then there shouldn't really be any issues. And actually, it's probably a little bit easier since you don't have to worry about substrate ever getting soaked and soggy and turning into a spoiled mess. So just to try to build the background up a little bit, I went ahead and layered some more foam and siliconed everything down just to make sure the frogs didn't somehow get underneath there and get stuck. So just a little bit of silicone, and once it cures, it's going to hold on real tight. You won't have any issues with it separating. Now, unfortunately, since I did pour more silicone down, I did have to wait a few more days for everything to cure once again. But as I said earlier, you know, just take your time with this stuff. There's no rush. You really shouldn't have your animals before you have your enclosure ready anyways. So this next piece probably really wasn't necessary, but I just thought I would design something. So this is going to be my drain tube to go down underneath the foam. Pretty simple concept, just a tube at the base. There's room for water to flow up in there. And I also made a cap for it. Not that the frogs could fit in there, but hey, why not? As you can see, installation's pretty simple and straightforward. Just take a knife, razor, whatever you want, cut a hole into the mat, fit your tube up underneath there, and press the mat back down, and you're done. All right, and now that that's done and out of the way, it's time to start planting. So this ragged piece of Monstera is out of one of my grow up bins. It was kind of winding through everything, so I decided I'd start cleaning all the bins out. So everything in this terrarium here today is clippings and just cleaning out the grow up bins. Now I thought I was going to be able to use this as just one big long piece, but it was so twisted. The leaves were all in different directions just because of the way it was growing. So it's a very forgiving plant. So I just clipped it off, made sure the roots were laying on top of the foam, and cleaned up that other part I cut off to a more manageable piece, and Monstera was in place. Now, since this did come out of a grow-out bin with 100% humidity in it, I thought I'd give it a little spritz of water here just to keep it from wilting. Now, luckily from experience, I know that this pilea is going to take root and grow really well. I have it in my tricolor paludarium, and it's taken off really well, actually better than it has in the other enclosures. Well, this lemon button fern's kind of cool. It's a little stringy looking sometimes, but when it starts to grow into a clump, it looks really cool. It spreads out really fast and pretty far. You can have one plant growing on one end of your enclosure, and then a month later, you're going to see it popping up on the other side from runners. And once those runners start going, they just go wild. They're everywhere in a matter of months. Now, some of these pilea, this one grows really fast and it grows in really awkward ways. You can see the one in the back is bent over, but a day or two with the light over top of it, it'll straighten itself out. Now, I did start going through some other enclosures, and I decided I didn't want that pilea there because I wanted to put the Georgiananthus I had in the Vanessa enclosure in this one. I think it'll look really nice. It should also grow really well in this foam, so at least I hope so. Now, since I am going to have Tinctorius in here, this plant is great. The leaves are really sturdy. The Vanessas I had in the tank this came from would both sit on top of a leaf, and there was no movement in it at all, so it's really sturdy. They love sitting on it. And now that the planting was done, it was time to start putting the leaf litter down. I tried to use it a bit to hold some of these plants straight up, at least give them a head start with straightening out. Now, the benefit of not having substrate, at least in this enclosure specifically, since it is so shallow, is that I can go really thick with the leaf litter. And my last bit of partridge berry I found in one of the bins. Might have to go out and try to find some of this out in the woods. It is a U.S. native plant. It's an evergreen. It slows down a bit during the winter months, but not too much. But it's been growing really well in my other enclosures. Now to place in a couple pieces of driftwood, just to add some more detail, some more stuff for the frogs to climb on. Really think it makes it look a lot better than just the plain leaf litter. I really like the small leaves on this Solanum Ecuador. It almost reminds me of Magravia a bit. Just grows a whole lot faster than Magravia. Now this fern, I have no idea. It was in one of my grow out bins. It just popped up along with a few other ones. Really can't ID it yet. It's really too small, so only time will tell. in the last misting before I close everything up. Now, most of these plants are really hardy, and I don't have to worry about the frogs or anything else trampling on them, so I'm not going to wait the month, which it's really been in question lately too. Do you really need to wait that long? As you can see, this springtail culture is pretty new. It's the first time I've opened it, so yeah, it's pretty lively in there. Alright, this build is done. Just a few more magnolia leaves, and that's it. Time to introduce the frogs. Now this frog I searched for a long time. I guess they're rather difficult to, or can be rather difficult to breed. This is Dendrobates Tinctorius Fumee. They are from French Guiana near the village of Saul. They are one of, if not the largest tanks. From what I've read, some of the females, especially wild caught, can get around a 3-inch mark and a little larger, so that's really a big dart frog. Hopefully I have a pair here. The one sitting on the leaf on top of the wood already looks like it has pretty large toe pads up front. Like I said, these are still pretty young, so things could change, but so far things are looking up for having a pair, which I really hope so. So that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you like and subscribe. And I'm going to leave the video here, just let you watch the frogs explore their new home for the first time. Really hope you enjoyed the video, and see you next time.